When the race to World First ends, a new race begins.
What?
That's right. The first 200 guilds that clear the raid on Mythic difficulty earn a place in the Hall of Fame. This means that these guilds are not just competing against the most challenging PvE content that World of Warcraft offers, they are also competing against each other. Firstly, congratulations are in order. Congratulations to every single guild that carved their names into the Hall of Fame for Liberation of Undermine. You are incredible. You should be outrageously proud of your achievement, and I salute you. Hall of Fame for the Liberation of Undermine closed after the weekly reset on May 6th. This was an unusual tier because of poor raid design and tuning. Usually each boss in a raid is harder than the previous bosses, and the final boss is the hardest of them all. Unfortunately, Gallywix was not as difficult as not one, not two, but 3 of the mid-tier bosses. Because Hall of Fame is tied to defeating the final boss, several guilds bought raid lockouts, hoping to skip the more difficult bosses and go straight to the final boss. To counteract this, they required qualifying guilds to kill or re-kill One-Armed Bandit or Mugsy. Additionally, Blizzard kept Hall of Fame open for another week. This means that more guilds achieved Hall of Fame this tier than any other previous tier. By my count, there are 373 guilds that qualified. The competitive community is united in the opinion that this is only one disaster among many that stem from Blizzard's reduction in QA resources.
Please come play PTR. And I know this has spawned a lot of kind of hate. You fired your whole QA department, and now you're trying to get us to come test your game for free. Been, widespread reports of various QA testers getting laid off, although I would imagine that in a lot of cases those decisions aren't being made by the devs.
Speaking directly to Blizzard executives and my fellow shareholders, stop penny pinching. Businesses exist to create value. Profit is a function of value, and as a community, we can all tell when your focus is on profit. Paradoxically, the more you focus on profit, the less the game grows, and the less profit you make. Help me help you.
The power of greed compels you.
Make more money by creating more value.
The power of greed compels you.
Profit is the consequence of value.
The power of greed compels you.
When you're making something, ask and answer one question and one question only.
The power of greed compels you.
Is the thing that I am making good?
The power of greed compels you.
The upside to having 373 Hall of Fame guilds this tier does present an opportunity. There is more data in the dataset. Building off of the analysis and comparison of cutting-edge guilds that I released in March, I thought I'd play with the data a bit. So, let's dive in. Let's see who the winners and losers of Hall of Fame Liberation of Undermine are. I started with a favorite website of mine, guildranks.com. I featured their data prominently in my last video and used it again here. Towards the end of Nurabar, an HTML error had broken most of the webpage, but it seems that the owner of the website noticed it and fixed it. Whoever you are, I love your work and I would love to work more closely with you. Please reach out to me.
I have a son, you have a daughter. We'll join our houses.
Now, the Liberation of Undermine data seems to be populating correctly. Data was unavailable for 21 of these guilds, and they were removed from the dataset. I then compared the remaining 352 guilds to their world rank in Nurbar Palace. In Greek terms, this change is often called the delta. Graphed out, the delta forms this sample. Most guilds might shuffle around a few places, but this video isn't about them. This is about the outliers. I combed through the data, and I have identified those outliers and figured out why they are performing or underperforming. As part of this exercise, I had to focus my search on US and EU guilds. Unfortunately, there's too much data missing from the CN scene, even though they have lots of great players there. That left me with 301 US and EU guilds. Now, some of these guilds also had insufficient data, so I cut them out too. The final data sample was 255 guilds, and sorted for the greatest change in delta, the chart looks like this. Now, in theory, these guilds are the most improved Hall of Fame guilds between Nurbar Palace and the Liberation of Undermine. It's worth noting that the raw change in world ranks isn't necessarily the best indicator of a guild's performance. Because these guilds are competing against each other, the higher a guild's rank, the lower the number of spots they can possibly climb. Additionally, each world rank that you climb is more difficult than the previous one. To capture this nuance, I added a new column called percent delta, where delta is divided by each guild's world rank in Nurabar. Now, let's analyze the top 3 winners. Zenith, Scuffed, and Hollow Purple. Zenith was world rank 993 in Nurabar, and at the end of Liberation of Undermine, they were rank 103. That is remarkable. Looking at their Nurabar Palace prog, I start to see some interesting numbers. According to Warcraft logs, they killed Broodtwister for the first time on January 8 in 3 pulls. Within the hour, they killed Kaiveza in 12 pulls. Something is fishy here. I deep dove the logs for all the players in for Zenith's Queen Ansarek kill, and I noticed that the vast majority had already gotten CE with a guild called Link Curve. This confirmed my suspicion that Zenith simply formed late during Nurabar, and because of that, their Nurabar world rank is inaccurate. Interestingly, both guilds are still raiding.
Lose something?
Oh! Well, I was, no, I was just wondering.
Unfortunately, it is my professional and analytical opinion that some guild drama may have occurred. The numbers do not lie, and while I have a polite and healthy interest in clarifying this anomaly, the logs offer no further clarification, and I can't speak Swedish. Unfortunately, I have disqualified Zenith from further analysis. So, congratulations Scuffed as the most improved Hall of Fame guild. I check their prog, and I start to see a familiar sight. Hands trembling, I immediately dive into the data like the nasty little social voyeur that I am. And as expected, the majority of the raiders in for their first Ansarek kill already had CE2. The more I look, the more I noticed a pattern emerging. These players came from multiple guilds, predominantly Vale and Medium. I go back to look at the gap in Scuffed's logs between Dragonflight Season 4, and that's where I find it. A heartwarming story of a guild who love each other, a guild who are so close and such good friends that even after they stopped raiding together, they still kept in touch in their old Discord, and then finally they just couldn't stand to be apart anymore and reformed. Mwah, mwah, mwah.
Oh, look at us, we're in love and happy and not dead inside. Get fucked, both of you.
Next up is Hollow Purple. Now this guild looks promising, but something funky is going on with their Styx logs. Tentatively, I think this might be our #1 most improved guild, but I need to investigate this more, so I'm going to put a pin in that one. Congratulations to the runner-up, Incentive. Except, none of their logs for this tier are public. Their most recent public logs are from Amir Drasil.
Disqualified!
Congratulations to the runner-up, This Is Fine. Upon further review, also missing public logs.
Disqualified!
Congratulations, runner-up, to Broomers. Finally, a guild with reports. But also, look at that bench. 52 DPS? And they raid 15 hours a week, 4 days a week? I mean, good for them, but wait, there aren't that many guilds that advertise they raid that many hours. In fact, I know that because I looked at all of the Nurabar 4-day guilds in detail in my manual scrape of Warcraft logs data from last year. I double-check, and they were advertising themselves as a 3-day guild. On November 4th, 2024, in a log titled Zaritsa 6, they killed Queen Ansarek for the first time. That lockout, they raided November 4th, 3rd, October 31st, 30th. Okay, that's 4 days. The week before that, they raided October 28th, 27th, 24th, which is 3. I don't know. I'm going to put a pin in this one, too. I think that tentatively, this is consistent, but I'm not certain yet. And coming in third place, we have... Are you kidding me? Northern Sky? The Northern Sky? Well, alright, fuck it. It might be fun to do a deep dive into a Raced World First Guild. I am, a CE player, but I don't really think that I'm qualified to be telling the people that make my weak auras what they did right and wrong. And good God, look at the bench. They have 69 players. I mean, that's 3 less than Broomers, but damn, am I really going to look through the logs of that many characters? Yes. Northern Sky's prog roster in Nurabar Palace had 27 characters on it, and in Liberation of Undermine, they had 30. To my eye, this means that both raids required roughly the same degree of comp flexibility. Yes, there was a lot of fanfare this tier about stacking particular classes for certain bosses, but Northern Sky did not radically change its bench philosophy or roster approach between tiers. Most of the players who swapped classes for a boss were core raiders playing a different class. As an outsider looking in, the biggest difference appears to be that Semphi unbenched himself. There were 2 departures between tiers. Schmofel/Toffee changed name and is now in Unluck. Passum is now in Baited. And 2 new arrivals joined the team. Furies, from Evicted, who also seems to have returned to Evicted postseason, and Huri. It appears that Northern Sky went deep on their bench of existing players. 2 players swapped off of their class to a new class. Nezi swapped from Warrior to Priest, and Tiz swapped from Shaman to Evoker. 5 of their players had Race to World First ready alts that saw play. Tharky on DK and Monk, Senfi on Druid and Hunter, Flo on Evoker and Priest, Libre on Priest and Monk, and Patrick on Warlock and Mage. Some of the guilds that Northern Sky leaped over this tier include Ethical, Project, Pop-Tart Corndog, Advance, XD, and Honestly. PvE rankings are comparative, so to truly understand why Northern Sky improved this tier, we need to look at the data of the other Race to World First guilds too. Conveniently, I already have a lot of the data on those guilds. Obviously, we want our dataset to include all the guilds that perform better than Northern Sky and Nurbar Palace, and a separate chart for Undermine. Let's crunch these numbers real quick. The first thing that the data tells us is that Liberation of Undermine was a shorter tier by every metric. Fewer pulls, lower total combat time, lower prog hours. It appears, across the board, Undermine was 62% of Nurbar's length. We can also see that each of these metrics does not clearly correlate to world rank. Generally, the top 3 Race to World First guilds have lower pull count and longer average pulls than the rest of this cohort. However, the correlation between these stats and their performance is loose. Just because you have the fewest pulls doesn't guarantee you're going to win Race to World First. The same is true for combat time and prog hours. Because I'm a cybernetic freak, something in this data was immediately obvious to me. Each of these guilds is extremely consistent between tiers. Here, for those of you that haven't drank enough coffee to read ones and zeros, let me turn this into a heat map. Here's Undermine, and here's Nurbar Palace. Do you see it now? The lowest pull count guilds in Nurbar are also the lowest in Liberation of Undermine. The same is true for the highest pull count guilds. This suggests that despite all the variables, roster size, turnover, class tuning, boss design, overtime, schedules, births, deaths, divorces, these guilds are operating in a consistent manner in every tier. The threshold where they call a wipe, the speed between their pulls, the amount of preparation that they do, all of it is consistent. This makes sense. Each of these guilds is a large established organization and they operate in a stable manner. The data is evidence of their culture. I can't tell you exactly why Northern Sky is always among the lowest combat time, lowest pull count Race to World First guilds, but if I can read the drama in the ones and zeros of guild logs, I can certainly take a guess. The guilds in green, like Northern Sky, Project, Advance, and Ethical, have fewer, longer pulls. Additionally, they're spending a significantly higher percentage of their raid time in combat. This indicates a higher degree of preparation, which is exactly what you would expect from a guild that raids fewer days each week compared to its peers. They are spending more time reviewing mistakes, discussing strategies, and building consensus. They are having longer, more productive conversations between pulls and outside of raid. Make no mistake, they aren't raiding 5 days, but I'm willing to bet my teeth that their raiders are dedicating 98% of their brainpower on off days to research, strategy, and maybe even making weak wars. Obviously, I'm not a fly on the wall inside of 16 guilds, but I can hear the gentle thrum of the machine. It speaks to me. I can smell them cooking. Is this a good thing? The low pull guilds, let's call them the Baker guilds, they performed significantly worse in Nurbar and better in Undermine. One of the big differences between these tiers is difficulty. It is possible that Bakers are better at shorter, easier raid tiers. Their strength is in preparation and discussion. They did not grind 150 pulls to find 1% damage, which means that they didn't have time to go stir crazy and overcook a solution. Their raid leaders kill the boss before the raid, and showing up to push buttons is just an execution check. The opposite also holds true. The high pull count guilds, let's call them the Butchers, have a completely different approach. They wipe fast and test out solutions as they go. Solving the boss isn't about lurking in other guild streams or having a strategy meeting on day 5 where they sing Kumbaya. It's about solving the boss. They think of something new, they try it, they dissect why it did or didn't work as they go, and they move on. This style leverages individual responsibility and expertise. The raiders on these teams must think for themselves, and that's why they tend to rank highly. More than that, these guilds excel on bosses with high pull counts. They have the fortitude to grind away at a problem until they solve it, trying many different things instead of taking a pre-prepared recipe. Firstly, Bakers are better at early prog. Talking through problems, reaching consensus, learning from one another, those are very important early on. Good leadership and preparation shines. Take the time to identify what the problems are and solve them as a group. I also think that these guilds do a little black market R&D, where they wait to take the strats that the Butchers carve. Number 2, Butchers are better at carving their own way. They are inventive, they try new things, and they solve the boss on a much more individual basis. These guys excel at finding damage and efficiency. They aren't looking to see what others are doing because they know that every minute they spend looking at someone else's work is one less minute that they can spend on their own prog. But that's enough macro analysis. Looking more closely at the nuts and bolts of how Northern Sky killed these bosses, I have the following takeaways from their prog on the last 3. On One Armed Bandit, they did a really good job of not getting crushed by the coins. This allowed them to get much deeper into the fight. Priests, Robin, and Kev all had very high roller uptime, which helped with the add damage check, which was pretty serious back when Northern Sky was progging this boss. Kev, Patrick, and Glad did an excellent job with interrupts, and over the course of prog, Fonky Dan, Patrick, and Kev literally never died to the flame tornadoes. Having DPS that are respecting the mechanics and not dying early allowed them to kill the boss much faster. On Mugsy, Glad and Riri carried soaks, and that was offsetting considerable melee greed from the monks, and allowed them to get deeper into the fight. Extra big kudos should go to Funky Dan and Dorog for ethical melee play, and Furies was ethically rebuffing every time a B-res went out. Your warriors simply could never do that. While I know that the comp was dictated around jail strategy and transcendence, the logs do show that almost all of the people playing an alt did significantly worse at other mechanics. I hope that in the future, Blizzard designs raid encounters so that groups are not incentivized to stack multiple classes. I think it just makes for worse play. It's simply less interesting. Overall, 0 out of 10 Blizzard. On Galley, Guy carried Soothes. I also noticed that Health Stones and Health Pot were used to great effect. Only 4 of the DPS were underutilizing Health Stones, and only 3 were underutilizing Health Potion. Kev also had some insanely ethical defensive play, although your mages still don't rebuff when someone's B-resed. But you can't have everything. And this all contributed to excellent prog that allowed them to absolutely demolish this tier. Congratulations to Northern Sky on being the 3rd most improved guild in Liberation of Undermine. Returning to Broomers, the guild that might be our 2nd most improved guild, I went through every log of theirs in Nurbar, and then I went through every log in Undermine, and unfortunately, there's an obvious explanation for their improved performance. Just like I feared, they went from 3 days to 4 days. Another heartbreaking disqualification. Congratulations to Northern Sky! Through the power of attrition, you are the 2nd most improved guild this tier.
Oh, I'm going. Right? Right?
Once again, I returned to my percent delta list, and God, this is so depressing. I wanted to find heroes. I was hoping to find something more interesting than guilds that added an extra day or formed late in Nurbar. I mean, it makes sense that there are these easily identifiable reasons for why outliers exist. I just didn't have it in me. I've already put more than an entire month worth of work into this video, and I just couldn't crawl back through the logs looking for one more success story. I just didn't have the heart to do one. So I did 5!
I'm a cop, and damn good at my job.
Wait.
What are you doing stripping?
After I picked my 5 random guilds using both delta and percent delta, I realized there was a problem. They were all EU. So I picked another 5 US guilds.
Yeah, that's my bicep.
Fassbender is Cult Magnum, the best goddamn FBI agent in the world.
Now, 10 guilds? That's way better than 1 guild. 10 guilds is way more interesting. I dove their logs, and these are the highlights. Low Expectations rose 90 world ranks and clinched Hall of Fame in the final hour. They lost a core healer right after One Armed Bandit, and not only that, they found and pulled a Resto Shaman from obscurity for Gallywix, and that never slowed them down. I have some ribbons that I'd like to hand out because that seems like fun, and the first ribbon goes to Roy Orbison. You are the best new addition of this team, and you did a phenomenal job. Whether you were carrying interrupts on Bandit or topping the meters, it's clear that you know your spec inside and out, and you brought something that this guild was missing last year. The most ethical player goes to Venus, XD. Your name is hilarious. I hate that I find it funny. I really wish I didn't find it funny, but it is funny. And I want to commend you for always being there to do a mechanic. You have excellent movement, you are the king of soaks on Mugsy, and there is no mechanic too small for you. This ribbon goes to the unkillable demon, Eviane. Across all bosses, you just don't die. I looked at all of the prog logs, and you are truly a cockroach. You are almost never killed, and when you are certainly not within the first 3. I actually kind of think that you might just be stealing Bat's life. Rancor rose 85 world ranks this tier. Out of all the guilds I looked at, I spent the most time combing this guild's logs compared to any other guild. I looked at interrupts, I looked at movement, I looked at assignments, I looked at deaths, I looked at health pots, everything. And I still couldn't make a strong enough case for one player being the most ethical. And I think that's pretty special. So, you know what? You get an award. You get an award. Everybody gets an award. Truly, it was extremely difficult for me to find a standout player in terms of mechanics, avoidable deaths, anything. You are all rock solid, and you all deserve a commendation, but I don't have the time to go into how great each of you are. So instead, enjoy this. That said, there are still two people that I want to give their own unique special little award. The first of which is the best new addition. This ribbon goes to Bad Dragon. You were always there. Whether there was a mechanic, a soak, or whatever, you were there. You had a massive mid-tier performance turnaround too, and I think there's something to be said for joining a new team and trying to figure out where you fit in. Well, you found that special spot. Congratulations. This ribbon is called High Roller, and it goes to Alvito. Alvito, you had a 52% uptime on High Roller, the debuff on One Arm Bandit. To put that in perspective, Eviscer, who's your dedicated melee coin person, had a 54% uptime. You know, I do find it interesting, you know, all that movement, you chasing down those coins, and you still didn't have a global for Curse of the Satyr? How'd you only cast it 10 times? You should get a weak aura. This next guild rose 84 world ranks, a guild who is outrageously tight. Turnover between this tier and last tier is among the lowest of all the guilds that I looked at. A shocking number of players in this guild have geared and capable CE alts that they swap out as prog demands. You guys are incredible. Congratulations to Blight and Burning Legion. Now for the ribbons. Most ethical player. I'm giving this one to Buff Warlocks. You carried interrupts on one arm. You are almost never one of the first 3 players dead. You are excellent at what you do. Congratulations. This ribbon is called Last Trial Standing. Pam, or Pam Dzibziak. As far as I can tell, you are the only trial to successfully join this guild between Neurobar and now. You are the chosen one. You are awesome. I have no idea what your guild name stands for. I look for a website or some kind of hint on your Warcraft logs page, but I didn't find a thing. Then it actually hit me while I was looking at your logs. There's only one thing CMT can possibly stand for, and that's excellence. Rising from world rank 248 to 123, leaping almost 125 places, you guys have had an incredible tier. In particular, I want to call out Zamu for ethical play. I also want to give my first award to a healer. This one is going out to Habibi TV. They are the Health Pot King. Healthstones 2. Truly the pinnacle of, fine, I'll heal myself. Every raid, your healer should line up and pay respects to you like you deserve. Great work. Time for the diabolical, the devious, the wicked. Congratulations, you guys. You had a phenomenal tier. Climbing 109 spots is pretty impressive. Bosky, Taven, Anadonia, Witcherek, Ticker, Yablachi. You guys are phenomenal. As far as I'm concerned, you can all slash roll for MVP. The only other award that I have to hand out for you is to Pronchiak. You are a Healthstone fiend. You're like a shelter dog with scarcity trauma. Relax, dude. We're not going to take the Healthstones away. You can just eat them when you need them. Business Class is among the most improved US 3-day guilds this tier. You guys just slid into the Hall of Fame with a Gallywix kill 11 hours and 46 minutes before Hall of Fame shut. Your execution this tier was First Class, and I've got a Headwind and Tailwind award for you aeronautical adventurers. Now, if you have watched any of my videos, you will know that I detest Ret Paladins. Every nice thing I have ever said about a Ret Paladin has been against my will, and it's with gritted teeth that I am here to give Bjorn Sr. the award for Best Ret Paladin Alive. This guild ran up to 3 Ret Paladins on some fights, and every single time Bjorn was carrying with Wog and Lay on Hands. Bjorn is also the raid leader, so it makes sense that sometimes he has his eyes on the raid frames instead of locked to the center of a screen, waiting for any button to glow, rolling his face on keys 1 through 4. He is the only valid Ret Paladin. The rest of you can go back to sitting in LFG queues and posting on Reddit. Blizzard, if you cannot fix your game, I will settle for a 20% Divine Storm nerf. I'll take back all the mean stuff I set up top too. I also have a unique award. It's called the Curse of What? And this award goes to Hempzilla and Outland Lock. Neither of you pressed Curse of the Satyr, Curse of Weakness, or Curse of Tongues a single time during Prog on any boss. To cap it off, you both played Hellcaller for most fights. The only logical conclusion is that Business Class is too good at this game and needed to play this tier on hard mode. Or maybe there's another reason. Maybe this is some kind of sick roleplay thing. Yes, clearly, you aren't using Curse of the Satyr because you were in a throuple with Xavius and the memory of Emerald Nightmare is too much. That's probably why. It would just be out of character for you. I sentence both of you to 6 months hard labor at the Goldshire Inn on Moonguard. I am willing to commute this sentence if you both keybind your curses and use them next tier.
Your hearts are in the right place, but your brain's gotta wake up.
nVus is among the most improved 4-day guilds this tier. If you're unfamiliar with them, they are a top 150 guild that moved up 44 spots between Nurbar Palace and Liberation of Undermine. Their logs also tell a pretty compelling story. Looking at progstats.io, we can see that their performance on Galley and One Armed Bandit was pretty average, and on Mugsy, they actually performed badly. But on Styx and Sprocket, they played like gods. By performing well on 2 of the mid-tier walls, they were able to dramatically improve their world rank. In particular, I think that they owe their improvement this tier to their incredible prog on Sprocketmonger Lock and Stock. They put him down in under 4 hours of prog and only needed 49 pulls. I'm going to forego ribbons for this guild, and instead I'm going to give a deep dive on their Sprocket prog. This fight is about 3 things: movement, mines, and near misses. Part of their success is in their comp. They were able to bring 2 BM Hunters and 2 Fire Mages, and this let them meet the ranged quota for this fight, but also significantly decreased the learning curve. nVus also avoided stupid deaths. They only used 15 battle reses for the entirety of their prog. In fact, they had more deaths to Pyro Party Pack, the Tank Buster, than Screw Up, Screwed, Rocket Barrage, Jumbo Void Beam, or Void Barrage. Pyro Party Pack managed to kill Trill twice, but I chalk this up to movement issues, especially seeing that Trill led the pack on health stones and health pots. No one rotted to shrapnel in the first 3 deaths, and I think that's some pretty great work on behalf of the Mind Poppers and the healers. Stop, everybody stop. I just noticed that their Demon Hunter's name is Crack Abuser. Oh my god, you people! Crack Abuser? Why? Why are you like this? After consulting with the data, I think it's clear that you are cringe. You're super cringe. Alright, moving on. As for rebuffs, special credit goes to the priests who made sure that 100% of battle reses were given Power Word Fortitude. Diurtikaz wasn't far behind with 13 out of 15 Marks of the Wild, and as usual, mages and warriors bring up the rear, only rebuffing a third of the time. To my surprise, there was only 2 out of 15 Sky Fury recasts and 0 recasts of Blessing of the Bronze. I mean, it is the worst raid buff, so I guess, but a surprise nonetheless. I think the takeaway lesson here is that performing better on harder bosses can have an outsized impact on your guild's performance. If you have 30 kids and 6 wives, leaving you only 30 seconds to prepare for raid, you're better off using that time to familiarize yourself with the more difficult bosses. Obviously, being prepared for every boss is ideal, but if you need to prioritize on knocking one fight out of the park, pick the hard one. For those of you watching this video with eagle eyes, you'll have noticed that at the 17-minute and 16-second mark in this video, during the Incredibles montage, I made a joke about disqualifying the guild Awakening because Donquavius is their MVP. Then, at 1813, I included them in my choice selection of US guilds. Awakening is among the most improved US 3-day guilds this tier, rising 197 spots to land at world rank 372. They were the second last guild to qualify for Hall of Fame, and truly, they could not have done it without the man, the myth, the legend, Donquavius. Firstly, I love your name. As a roleplay nerd at heart, I assumed that this was a reference to Don Quixote, but I googled it just to make sure, and I got this jaw-dropping explanation from Google's AI. Tentatively, I investigated further.
My name is Donquavius. Right now, I work as a web developer.
Turns out Donquavius went semi-viral for being a single father to 5 kids who spends 50% of his income on McDonald's drive-thrus. Well, if that doesn't capture the core essence of the average WoW player, what does? In Nurbar Palace, Donquavius' prog parses were outrageously bad. This man parsed a 0 on Kaiveza, with a late G invis that cost him his life, a 1 on Silken Court, where he killed a healer with Blink, and a 17 on Ansrek, where he blinked the circle only to get dragged back into it because he was hardcasting. It was undeniably not Donquavius' tier. But I'm not singling him out for his Nurbar performance. No, I'm celebrating him, because he is the most improved player among all of the most improved guilds that I looked at. For example, on Sprocketmonger Lock and Stock, This was the hardest boss for Awakening this tier. Donquavius wasn't originally in, and then he came in for the kill comp. He did a pretty good job of avoiding damage, and I think that he fixed a lot of his defensive play here. His movement was also reasonably good, and he managed to avoid a lot of the damage that he didn't need to take. On One Armed Bandit, he was only killed by Coin Line once for all of Prague, compared to most people in the guild dying 6 to 7 times, and he was only killed twice by Flame Tornadoes, compared to a certain hunter who died 11 times. And I think more importantly than that, he was one of the core mechanic people for this boss. He was hard assigned to one of the kicks, and out of all of the casts of Overload, 98% of them were interrupted. And who was the king of kicks? Your boy, Donquavius. Good coin tossing and trusting in Donquavius to get one of the interrupts was a recipe for success. Awakening was able to perform better than average on One Armed Bandit, killing the boss in the 63rd percentile. Next up came Mugsy. Now this boss is the end boss of Liberation of Undermine for a lot of guilds. And where was our boy? Carrying the soaks. But again, Donquavius is one man, and Mugsy was a real wall for Awakening. It took them 14 hours and 119 pulls to down the big guy, putting them in the 36th percentile. They really needed to lock in and kill Galley before the Hall of Fame shut. They needed a hero. They needed Donquavius.
I'll lead the attack.
I'll lead the attack!
What are you talking about?
Fold my helmet. Those are brave men knocking at our door. Let's go kill them!
Anxious with the hopes and dreams of his guild, Donquavius set out to become a famed slayer of the Chrome King. Proving himself as a capable mechanics doer, he ran the third bomb. For the uninitiated, running a bomb on Galley is a serious responsibility. Once you pick up a bomb, you get a debuff called Auto-Locking Cuff Bomb. After you run your bomb, you cannot die. If you die, you blow up and you wipe the whole raid. Now, let's stop and appreciate that. This guy was dead first on Kaiveza, killed a healer and himself on Silken Court, died on Ansarek. In Nurbar Palace, he was a death magnet. He was floor POV the whole time. And yet now here he is, running one of the most important mechanics in a nail-biting race to the finish for Hall of Fame. Not only did Donquavius improve enough to be worthy of that honor and that responsibility, but his team had enough faith in him to be able to pull it off. That's how much he improved. But Donquavius was not afraid. He was too smart to be afraid. And that's why you see him pressing Arcane Intellect for his fallen homies. And it worked. Awakening finished out this tier as the second last guild to enter the Hall of Fame thanks to their blistering Gallywix prog, slaying the Chrome King in less than half the amount of time they took on Mugsy, putting them in the 73rd percentile of their peers. In review, Donquavius stepped up. He brought home the McBacon for his 19 kids. During prog, his focus is on mechanics and killing the boss. Even still, his prog damage has improved considerably, with only 2 gray parses and 2 greens. But damage is not the most important part of Mythic raiding. It's mechanics. It's pressing your defensives and losing combust uptime. It's rebuffing. It's catching a soak. It's running a bomb. And then post-prog, Donquavius has proved that he can put up orange and purple parses with the best of them. In my opinion, the data suggests that humble Donquavius is the most improved player this tier. More than that, he has the right mindset for Mythic raiding, and he isn't placing his Parse above the guild's prog. Congratulations to Awakening, and big congrats to Donquavius. Fanfare, please. Fanfare. Now, let's move on to our winner, Hollow Purple, the winner of this tier. Now, this is a guild that I know you have never heard of before. Their logs are a story of trials and tribulations, with more floods, fires, and backstabbings than the Bible. This guild is the undisputed winner of the race to Hall of Fame. In Nurbar Palace, they were ranked 1311. Going into Liberation of Undermine, they had 100% turnover in their healers. They also lost both their tanks. They are a remarkably resilient community of extraordinarily talented players. This tier, they were the 341st guild to down Gallywix. But where do I go from here? How could I possibly do this story justice? I mean, I've already done awards and deep dives. I found heroes scuttling in the digital darkness of these logs. But honestly, I'm nervous. As a content creator, I see it as my duty to one-up myself at every opportunity. And how could I possibly deliver on the most improved guild of the tier? On my shoestring budget? I tried starting a Patreon, but they automatically deleted my account. And then it struck me. Like many content creators before me, especially small content creators, I turned to the premier crowdsourcing platform. Yep, that's right. I'm not asking you to like this video. Subscribe to my OnlyFans today. For the price of a coffee, you can get exclusive access to my upcoming projects. Link in bio. It's a foolproof plan. I've already quit my day job. Actually, I'm using my handy-dandy credit card right now to secure lights, cameras, and costumes for the final chapter in this saga. I interviewed Hollow Purple. Howdy.
What's up, man? How's it going?
It's good. It's good. I've been looking forward to talking to you since I think May the 5th when I saw that you guys got CE.
Thank you. Yeah, it's cool. It's cool. I don't know where Kevin's at. He said he'd be back in a second, but I guess he can pop in whenever.
Yeah, we can wait for him. Do you mind if I record this just that way I can, one, use it, but two, also I don't have to take notes?
Sure.
You guys have had one hell of a tier.
Thank you.
I have like deep dived and combed your logs to a degree that most of your raiders probably haven't.
Oh, really? Yeah, I'm in the midst of doing that right now for the end of tier reviews, so
I might be able to compare notes with you. Because
oh,
hey Kevin, nice to meet you.
Yo, what's up? Sorry, I don't know if I'm a little late or not.
You're fine. We just started talking. You are being recorded, just so you know.
Oh my God, there's a lot of pressure on us right now.
I know, right?
Big deal.
No, it's very chill. I was just telling Scoops that I don't know if you saw it, but I made a spreadsheet last year about cutting edge guilds, and I compared like 2-day and 3-day guilds, and then I ranked them because like sometimes it can be kind of hard to tell like which guild is which. And so I'm doing the same thing for Hall of Fame guilds, and since Hall of Fame just closed, I was looking through the data, and your guild caught my eye. So the first thing I want to know is tell me about Hollow Purple. I love that name. I collect indie band names, which is like fucking absurd, I know, but I love Hollow Purple. It's an amazing name.
You know what's funny is I didn't know much about the name, and I found out it was like some anime reference, and I'm like, man, I don't know if I can associate with this anymore. It caught me completely off guard, but Cole came up with it, so I'll let him answer the question.
I don't know. I just started watching it. I thought the show was cool. Whatever, I did it. It sounded cool. So I guess a little backstory on us. It's the guild was made in Kata. A group of my close friends and I were playing, and
you should say like the Kata servers that just came out, like not Kata like 20.
Yeah, not OG Kata. We're talking like very recent. We just wanted to raid, and we made a guild, and we just kind of went through the trials and tribulations of getting people on Kata. It was a lot harder, especially like respectfully, Kata players for the most part are generally not as good as retail players. So yeah, we kind of started there. Then I was doing a lot of trade chat spamming, trying to find people, and luckily I stumbled upon my close friend Zurok. He was the raid leader of the first retail tier, but
yeah, Big Daddy Pump, right?
Big Daddy Pump, yeah. So we, in the pre-patch of War Within, we hopped on, and I was like, please be good at retail. Please be good at retail. I log on, he's like 3750 and M+. I'm like, thank God. And we kind of transferred it all over. We left Kata behind and started, networking people and getting ready for the first tier.
And then, Kevin, how long have you been playing retail WoW? Were you also part of that Kata squad?
I was not. I've known Cole. So my backstory is I played WoW for as long as I can remember. Back into middle school, and I'm 28 now. So I started playing in Wrath of the Lich King. I've always played on and off. I graduated college about 5 years ago, around when BFA was starting, and I always thought to myself, I was like, I always wanted to play WoW seriously, and I really gave it a shot after I graduated college. Since then I've gotten every cutting edge except for Emir Drasil when I didn't play. But I met Cole in Old Deer, literally the first year I started playing. We were always friends, but never like super close or anything like that. Lost touch for a couple of years in between there. But I went from like the worst guild in the world to I started running my own guild in the middle of BFA into Shadowlands. That guild that I used to run died in Sepulchre. I went to go join high-end guilds on my own. I raided in Vesper and Muscle Memory, which were around the US 10 to 20 range. Burnt out, didn't play Emir Drasil. Came back for War Within and like a friend AOTC guild. That shit died. Cole and I kind of caught back up at the start of the expansion, right when he was making HP, and I joined. he knew kind of my backstory, being involved with a guild and in leadership before, and Xerox had to step away at the start of this tier for work-related reasons, and he was like, "Yo, man, like, we need a raid leader. Like, will you do it?" And I was like, I wasn't like, all gung-ho about it at first. I was kind of I joined with another friend of mine. We were just kind of here just to play and fuck around and have a good time, but I'm happy I took it. I've been enjoying it a lot. It's really reinvigorated my passion for WoW. There's just a lot of things that I enjoy about, running a guild and, especially seeing it be successful. So that's kind of my backstory. But no, to answer your question, I was not part of the Kata squad. I had been friends with Cole for years. I joined in the middle of last year, and here we are.
When we think about that Kata squad, I've like deep combed your logs, and so I think I know who they are, but it would also be good to actually be sure of that. So here's my guess, and you tell me if I'm right.
Sure.
Max, Sly, Killer, Crow, Zeshunk, Kev, Dwagon, obviously, Badge, which I think is Big Daddy Pump, Nippo Beam, and that's it. That's the core.
So you'd be probably surprised from Kata, none of those people. It was
none
me
of
and
those people. Okay.
Big Daddy Pump. It was. I mean, for lack of better words, it was a struggle, like trying to get people, and all of our friends didn't want to play. We actually stumbled upon Zaryu, and he joined our guild on stream, and that's where we got our Kata guild going. So we raided with him for a while, and then that's where we were able to survive because we had recruits from there, really.
Cool.
So, but everyone else is retail. Those are all friends, just networked. So
interesting. And so like you say, networked. Like, did you network through trade chat, like Discords? Like, how did you do your recruiting?
Friends, really. I mean, Zishunk, Nepo, Killer, who else? Maybe one or two others were through Big Daddy Pump's friends. Crow and Nillum actually joined with another friend that he actually ended up not rating that much, but they came from an AOTC guild and just kind of gave him a shot, and then they blossomed very well. So
cool.
Trade chat, not really. It was more like, I don't know, as a first year guild, it was really tough, right? Like going through I mean, I can show you hundreds of messages on Raider.io to people trying to get people to even look at us, right? Recruitment Discord, things like that, but not really trade chat.
So talk to me a little bit about Nurbar Palace. Like, what was that like for you as a first year guild?
It was brutal. We came out reasonably hot. We thought we were going to be better than we were, right? It was naive, but we quickly noticed, I think when we got to, I'd say, around Brood and Kaiveza was the first real eye openers. We got there and it was like, all right, we're not as good as we think we are, right? There's not enough. We're not doing enough prep. Xerox doing a great job, but we don't have full MRT set up for people. We don't just have people in the right places doing what we need to do. And we also don't have the skill level to push as fast as we're wanting to, right?
Right. Okay, I think I have two more questions. One of them is more general, one specific, and I'm going to start with a specific one.
Sure.
Who is KS Jera, and how did you find them?
KS Jera was I think Sly messaged me before this tier just started, and just basically hey, check this guy out. He has good experience, blah, blah, blah. He's coming back to the game, and I interviewed him, and everything sounded good, looked good. And he geared a Shadow Priest, and barely made it in for a split runs. He didn't have an ult or anything, and we just got him going. Yeah.
No, I would say that, in my opinion, he is your most improved player that you've had for both tiers. And so, it was very obvious, it was somebody playing in all, his eye level parses were good, even though, he was kind of, obviously not geared in those first runs in Nurbar Palace, but, really came online, also pretty good at mechanics from what I can tell, just looking at your replays and stuff. So, that was pretty interesting. And, I couldn't figure out what the connection was. I figured that was somebody else knew, like a networked friend, but I'm surprised to hear that most of your recruits were networked. That's really interesting.
Yeah, I'd say about 50% of our guild is, yeah.
Who do you play, Scoops?
I play whatever the guild needs, man. I started on Arcane Mage in Narabar. I went to, God, what did I play? I think I went to VDH because we lost a tank, and then we ended there. And then this tier, I started on Resto Druid, and now I'm on a Rogue, and I'm staying on my Rogue.
Okay, so are you
so I
violent?
can master something. I am.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah.
Last minute swap.
Nice. I was also combing through your logs, and in addition to being one of the most interesting guilds from like a numerical perspective, like analytically, quantitatively, you also had a piece of like information about one of your guildies in there. And I looked up one of your guildies, and I found out that he's famous parents. Did you know that?
Who?
Zin's mom is an international model.
What? We're gonna have to talk to Zin.
No,
He's
I'm
a great human.
I'm messing with you mostly, but you do have a log talking about how Zin's mom is hot. So,
yeah.
All right, so I was looking at your healers, and you have like outrageous turnover amongst your healers. So, like, do you have like a healing officer? Like, who? Talk to me more about like that struggle.
I wouldn't say we have a healing officer. We kind of bopped around with that idea, like tank officer, healing officer. We kind of, especially like this tier. Now that Kevin's here, we have 2-3 other guys, officers, and we just kind of like delegated, right? We kind of all just fill in where we see fit. So no, we don't necessarily have a healing officer. The turnover it's tough. We had a real big struggle the first year Nerebar with healing, and it's just drastically changed this year, and you can feel it.
Definitely. Okay, so how would you guys describe Hollow Purple's progress in Liberation of Undermine?
I'm very happy with it. We ended the tier of Nerebar and did a lot of crunching, looking at things, and the goal was let's 150 US, maybe 100 if we're going crazy.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
Things worked out.
Do you guys mind if I share my screen? I want to show you something.
Sure.
I'll show you what I'm working on. It's ugly now. I'll make it pretty one day. But the Hall of Fame data I pulled from Guild Ranks, which they've like fixed their APL, so it's no longer. I compared it to a copy of my spreadsheet that I released in March, and I wanted to look at the delta between guilds that had killed it last tier and guilds that had killed it this tier. You are the guild that has improved the most in terms of world rank that I can verify. There's one guild above you, Scuffed. They were actually formed from a second guild that collapsed. Because again, I've also deep dived their logs too. It was like, that's like a real zero to hero story. You know, like you were, definitely in the late end of the tier for Nerebar Palace, and then this tier, you are now Hall of Fame. So that's huge. And so I wanted to let you guys know that you are my most improved guild.
Thank you.
Congrats. Yeah.
Let's go. I was wondering about this.
Yeah.
The only thing I'll say, and not to like diminish the achievement, because it's like, I think going from like a brand new guild like Cole's talking about, like, dude, like you're lucky if you can even find 20 people to raid like the first week of the first tier, So that taking that from there to Hall of Fame in the second tier is like incredible. I will say, like, I don't know if this is cheating or not, but like I have rated at a high level. I've rated at a high level. It's not like this was like a completely brand new, like nobody knows what the fuck's going on. Like I have a couple friends that are pretty good at the game that joined. It's a lot of like friends of friends, and we kind of made it work this tier. Obviously, we did really good and everything like that, but we were lucky to be able to pull some of our friends into the guild and have it all really come together nicely. So
definitely.
Right.
I mean, also when I was looking at your data, it looked like you had a bit of a like pretty serious mid-tier hiccup where your main tank 30 milligrams left.
Wait, do you want to hear a crazy story?
Yes.
Do you want to hear what actually happened? I'll give you the rundown, and before I say it, I actually want to say that I'm very impressed with your knowledge of our guild. Like you have done your homework, and it is impressive, and I appreciate you for it.
Thank you.
But here's the story: is a week ago, 7 days ago exactly, or no, today's Wednesday, so 8 days ago. We have like an officer group chat, right? And so we're all just bullshitting. We're like, we had wiped at Muggsy, like got him like 13%. We're getting ready to kill Muggsy, and then like it's the last week of the tier, right? Hall of Fame's in reach for us. Like we're like, all right, we have to kill Muggsy tonight, and we have 3 days to kill Galliwix, and like we'll see what happens. Cole at like 11 o'clock writes in our group chat. He goes GM, and he sends a picture of what 30 had messaged Cole, basically saying that he was leaving, going to join a friend's guild, and we were shit out of luck. And so I worked like a normal 9 to 5. I was in the office that day, and from like noon to like 6 o'clock. I'm pretty certain I was calling in all the favors in the world. I was asking a couple of my friends that had already killed the boss, if they could help us out. So, as I'm sure you might have seen, on Tuesday of last week, there was Xerox on his Demon Hunter, and Judge, I think, was there, who's a normal prop paladin. Now we killed Muggsy with that comp. On Wednesday, we did. What was it? It was Frosty there on Wednesday? I don't even remember. Do you remember, Cole?
Can't remember.
Either
Maybe.
way, I think it was no. Frosty had DMG raid. It might have been Xerox and
yeah, it was Thursday.
Judge again.
Yeah.
That happened on Wednesday. I think it might have been the same too. I actually don't remember what I should. But and then on Thursday, Judge, who was our prop paladin, the one that didn't quit, had a gender reveal. So he had already called out of raid that day anyway. So we had to find 2 tanks for Thursday essentially. What ended up happening is we got one of my good friends that I used to raid with in BFA. His name is Frosty. He's the raid leader for DMG, one of the best guilds in the US. He came to tank for us, and I had to call in a big favor for that one. And then another friend of mine named Abrasive, who raided in Twitch Prime during progression, and then ended up joining Memory, actually going to join our guild next week, which is exciting, also raided with us on Thursday. So it was trying to figure out the logistics of who can come on what day, and us just getting shafted at the last minute, and just juggling all of that and trying to make it work was actually such a headache. But it was looking back on it, it's actually a pretty funny story to tell.
I knew that this was kind of the story because I had already looked at all of your logs and determined when you were raiding, and it didn't match up with any of your schedules. And so here's your schedule in March, and then I also noticed that you had major logging issues. So I don't know which one of you is Chevalier and which one of you is
that's me,
Dog. But I've also never seen this in Warcraft logs. But if you go into your reports, you are yellow. I don't know why that is. That's
no clue.
And then I also noticed that sometimes your logs. I don't know if you need to uninstall and then reinstall the app. It's not even these. It's what happens is your sticks data got super turbo fucked.
Really?
Yes.
What the hell?
Yeah. So all of your sticks data is in here. It's just that it's stuck in the bottom down here, here.
Weird.
And so when I originally looked at your prog, you were missing sticks, and I was like, oh, that's kind of suspicious. And it shows that you don't have any pulls.
Weird. I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, and I actually thought well, did they buy a lockout? I investigated this, and I came to the conclusion you did not. And what happened is that your logs are just absolutely miserable. I don't know why.
Yeah, I know. Well, I know Sly sometimes logs, and for some reason it's not connected to the guild. He needs to edit it, but there were some issues with it. I gave him perms and stuff.
So I actually I used Sly's character page and went through his logs in addition to a few of your other DPS that were in for all of your kills. And the question marks are ones that I was able to find through your page, your guild page, and the exclamation points are raids that you had that I was able to find in your raiders logs that were not connected to the guild.
Right.
Which is kind of strange. But so yeah, as you can see, were you guys Monday, Wednesday, and then you swapped Tuesday, Thursday?
We were Tuesday, Wednesday, 8 hours, and then about halfway through the tier, all the raiders were like, "Well, we want to raid more," so we ended up going 3-day, 3 hours. So we added an extra hour.
Okay. Yeah. No.
Funny enough, about Stick specifically. Sly and to your point, it probably looks funny when you look at our page
True,
that. But the week we were working on Sticks, Sly's girlfriend was out of town, and he just took it upon himself. He was like, "Yo, I'm bored. Does anyone want to raid tomorrow?" And we killed it on a Friday. I don't know if that's shown in through your data or anything like that, but we killed Sticks on a random Friday because Sly rounded up 20 people to raid. So we didn't really overtime all that much. It was our Sticks kill, and then. We added 1 day on Gallywix last week, but that's the story.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's exactly what I found too. I did not go deep into the Styx data just because it is so messy, but I was able to confirm that you didn't, buy a lockout, which was the only thing that really mattered. Because like if you had, I would have been like, all right, I'm going to move on to the next guild.
No, definitely not.
Okay, cool. So I want to know a little bit more about like how you guys actually like organize yourselves as a guild. So one of the things that I think that you guys did that was to your benefit that not a lot of other guilds do is you moved part of your mythic reclears to your optional heroic raid nights, and you would kill like mythic Vexy and Cauldron and whatever on like these random Mondays, and that freed up a lot of the other raid time that you had so you could actually get good prog in. Was there like a plan to do that from the beginning, or like what was your thinking there?
I'd have to look back to logs, in which weeks we did that.
Did we do that, Cole?
I think early we may have. I can't remember exactly. Do you have any specifics that you could show? Like I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, I can find them.
It's no rush. I'm not sure what we did. So because I know the first couple weeks, once we were killing getting AOTC kills, I know we would like do that and then dip in and go try and get the first couple bosses done. But I think like the second week or third week of the tier, I think we did that and then progressed from there.
Yeah. Anyway, I just think it's super smart. I wish my guild did that. I had not thought of that either. So
well, I'll be honest with you. Like I think it's like if we did that the way you described it, I think it's mildly kind of cringe to do like mythic bosses on farm on an optional night. That seems like a kind of silly way of approaching it. I don't know if we explicitly did that. I genuinely don't remember, but I might scold my past self if we did that. I'll be honest with you.
I would be.
I can't even remember.
Like you have a random Vexy kill here on a Monday but this is back in early March, back when you were raiding on Mondays, so maybe that's not that weird. Huh. I did find like a couple of them.
Yeah, I will say I know. I just need to be the only person logging and fix it. Oh my god.
If you're interested, like the only thing I could think of off the top of my head in terms of like an interesting strategical decision that we made that I definitely benefited us in the moment. I don't know historically how it's going to be looked back upon yet, but I think there's been a lot of ambiguity this tier about how Hall of Fame is going out and what the criteria is. Because I think Blizzard was trying to combat like people from buying lockouts, like you said. So they're like, all right, going forward, you need to kill the last 3 bosses now. And so what we did is we were like, fuck, like even if we kill Galliolix, like are we gonna have to go back and kill one arm, or like are we not gonna be eligible? Are we gonna miss it because of that, right? So there was a lot of discourse about, what should we do to maximize our chances of getting the title. So if you look at the last week of our progression, we actually didn't extend our lockout. We did on Tuesday we did Vexy. And then we had a friend, the abrasive person, our prop paladin on our Galliowix kill. He gave us a lockout that went right to Mugsy, or he activated the skip, let us go right to Mugsy. So we did Vexy. We actually killed Mugsy at the end of our Tuesday, which was our only progression kill. From there, we did Galliowix on Wednesday, Thursday, and then Sunday. We killed it on Sunday. And then because it was still a fresh lockout, we could go back and then kill one arm. You'll notice that the last, the night we killed Galliowix, we also have a one arm kill in there. And after we killed one arm, we got the Hall of Fame achievement. So I don't know if Blizzard is going to go back and like manually add in like the guilds that didn't do it that way and like killed Galliowix and like didn't go back and kill one arm because they extended. But we did it this way, and I actually think it was a good decision.
It was really weird.
Your Sprocketmonger prog was exceptional, and it was one of the ones that like is a fight that I can't really deep dive into to be like, okay, well, who is not making mistakes here outside of like beam deaths, right? Because like it's one of those fights where you are stepping on the traps correctly and you're moving correctly, and then the fight's over. Kind of. I wanted to ask you guys specifically about that fight. Like, how did that go for you? What was your prog like?
So Sprocket is our worst boss of the tier. That's a sly log right there.
Yeah, the 55 pull count is not accurate. That was actually our worst boss of the tier. It was somewhere over
one arm is our best boss.
It was like 130, I think.
Yeah, that's that. Yeah, we need to fix that. I didn't think too much of it. I mean, I guess I didn't think we'd be here, but yeah, that was actually our worst boss. I think we would have been 20, 30 ranks higher if we didn't mess up so bad on that boss.
Interesting.
Which is ironic. Yeah. One arm was by far our best boss. I think we were like almost 50% of the average pull count. That's accurate.
I thought that you were gonna kill it on this bowl. Like this is
I
so
wish.
stupid close.
We were so close so many times. Simple mistakes.
Yeah, so you also had like a moment where you like turned it all around on one-armed. Your first night was not great, and then your second night that you were on one-armed, you changed up the interrupt assignment. So I think that you originally had Sly and Max soloing the interrupts, and then you set Nilum to be the third, but you didn't set a fourth. Why not?
Well, we set 6, so we had each ad had a backup. So essentially, I believe it was Sly, Max, and then Nilum, I think, were our first kickers. We had changed a couple things, and then we had like Boomies on backup, and I think maybe Shunk was on backup, I believe, too.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean that was basically it.
I think that Sly and Max did an outrageously good job, and like that's one of those things that does wipe groups is missing that kick. And
oh yeah.
So kudos to them. And also Bug was an excellent pickup for you guys.
Yeah.
Like he like truly no ego, just ate the bullet and was like, I do the mechanic now.
Yes.
That is like invaluable in Mythic Raider.
We thank him. Yeah.
If you looked at our kill on the actual log, I think he parsed a 0.
He did, yeah.
But if you were there, like if you looked at like every one of our wipes, I don't think he fucked up the coins more than like 2 or 3 times across all of our pulls. Like his damage was low, but man, did he knock that shit out of the park. He did an exceptional job with that. It was really good for our progression.
Yeah, totally agree. And that's exactly what I found. I do want to also give some ribbons to this incredible team. Truly, every single person on this team deserves their own award. There's no way that you go from world rank 1311 to Hall of Fame as a 2-day guild without every single player being incredible. But I do think that there are some players that deserve extra recognition. So I am giving a ribbon for MVP that is shared between 2 players. Max and Sly, you both deserve this ribbon. I could not pick one. I couldn't bring myself to flip a coin. You guys played awesome. I want to give a ribbon to Bug for most ethical player of the tier. Of all the logs I looked at, you are the player who looked at the boss and said, all right, I'm going to kill this thing. And I think that the parse that shows this the best is your 0 on One-Armed Bandit. You were dedicated to killing that boss, and you didn't fuck around. You didn't try to maximize your damage. You got into your role, you played your position, you swallowed your ego, and you killed that boss. That 0 is worth more than any 100 ever. You did so well to be able to fight the boss, kill the boss, and allow your guild to progress. You are one of the reasons that this guild was not walled on one of the harder bosses in this tier, and you deserve extra recognition. I would also like to give a ethical player ribbon to Nilum. I want to give another high roller ribbon to Sly and Killer. What's crazy is that it's 6.5% higher than Bug, your coin roller. What else did I find here that was interesting? Oh yeah, okay, so the other thing that was kind of an outlier on One-Armed Bandit is you didn't have melee just like zugging into them and blowing up, and you still had like melee like do big damage on some of your pulls, like Killer and your Monk, which one is that?
Zenith.
Yeah, they also like had good pulls where like they did big damage there, but also you didn't have a large number of additional pulls because of explosions to melee just being, unfortunately melee. Did you have like a weak aura or something? Like I know some people are using like a stop sign weak aura for those ads.
Are you so you're referring to like melee getting blown up essentially?
Yeah, because like if they run into those that first set of bombs that you can't CC, then like it's game over, right? Or even if you vanish or whatever.
Yeah, I did that a couple times. Yeah. We just, I don't know, we set up a structured way to do it, right? I mean, the first bomb set's coming out, we had the entire group stacked on the right, so you bait the coins that way, you get the buff, and then everyone steps left and drags them through the middle. We have, and we just use Ursuls, really.
Yeah.
And then we would just run away, really. I mean, that's it. We'd call out refixate if we got there, and they would die quick.
One thing I think that was also, like, it wasn't the non-CC set that you were referring to, but in the last phase, there are ads that spawn, and for better or for worse, we had 2 boomkins in, and our boomkins basically just fucking soloed the ads, the ones at the end of the fight. Yeah. So like there weren't any. I don't think we had a single P3 death wipe where it was melee were off like looking like hitting the ads basically. They never got off the boss. They just kind of hit the boss the whole time. Let all the multi-dotters and the boomkins kill the ads with Starfall and shit like that.
Yeah.
I think it made for like good consistent P3 pulls too.
We just had a bunch of CC for them too, like chains, Ursuls, landslide, all that stuff.
I also went through your Mugsy logs. I noticed, I think I closed all these windows. Unfortunate. I can reopen some of them. Do you know who was doing most of your soaks for
Yes.
Mugsy?
Oh yeah, we do.
Holy Paladin.
Yes, yeah. Lil Sussy Baka absolutely carried the shit out of that mechanic. I was so shocked because most of Holy Paladins I know are like, I gotta be melee rage, right? I generate Holy Power that way, and they also pumped the healing. Like they just showed up in every mechanic. Like I think that he is your best pickup of the tier. I also think that like as I said before, I think KSJR is your most improved player, but I think that Lil Sussy Baka is like outrageously good. So excellent find.
Well, I'll tell you, in terms of the cheating that I referenced before, his first name is Nathan. I've known him for a while. So Nathan is one of my friends. Max is one of my friends. Bug is one of my friends. These are just all people that I was pretty confident were good players. Max actually raided with us last year, but I know them all from previous guilds. So it's like a little cheating. It's not like we just found these guys at a trade chat, but 100% Nathan is incredible.
Yeah,
it's fantastic.
What are your thoughts on like roster comp? What do you think that you'll be changing up or trying to do again going into the next year?
Good question. It's the talk of what we're doing right now. I guess the goal is right. I think the entire guild is on the same page. It's we like to be competitive, right? We like to win. It's fun to win with a group of friends and stuff like that. So we're definitely looking to just keep improving and get better. Changes going forward. Of course it's always good. We're looking for a tank, right? I think we just got one, but I don't know. I think we're just kind of trying to keep the same mindset, right? And obviously if we have great people coming in, recruits, we'll try them and see where we're at. But it's a hard line to draw, I guess, too, right? We have such a great group of guys, and I think we can grow a lot, where we're at too, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think that your healer situation also stabilized considerably.
One of the things that I'll add to that, is relevant. I don't know if you want to use this or if you ever care about looking at it, but the guild that I used to run back in BFA and Shadowlands was called Big Brain Boys. It was pretty similar to Hollow Purple in the sense that it started as we got cutting edge in Battle to Zara lore the very last week of the tier, and from that point up until Sanctum of Domination, we just got better every single tier. But one of the things that I attribute most to our success was keeping a good core group of players together that were friends outside of raid, enjoyed playing the game together, but just kind of keeping the same group of people together that we thought were good and we enjoyed spending our time with. That's really what I think we're going to focus on in this guild. We have a good core of people that are already here. I don't think we really need to make all that many changes. Obviously there's finding a tank because our tank kind of fucked us over, and maybe add another healer, things like that. And people always, WoW rosters are always fluid. People always drop off that you're not expecting them to. So I don't think we're going to look to do anything drastically different. But, for the most part, it's just keeping things consistent, and our prep could be better, just looking at some little things that we'll look to improve on from tier to tier.
Oh, so the other thing I guess that I wanted to show you guys is in terms of 2-day guilds, right? And everybody that is Hall of Fame does some degree of overtime. This is completely the norm. There are not that many 2-day guilds that hit Hall of Fame. One of the best guilds in the world, Blur, didn't do as well this year as they have historically done, but this guild is mostly made out of X-Race to World First players. That's sort of the caliber of guild that you are playing in range of as a 2-day guild. So you guys should be incredibly proud. You guys rocked it this year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Blur and Rain are so my old guild BBB we were in Sanctum the best 2-day guild in the US. That was our claim to fame. So Blur and Rain both have some of my friends in it from back then. When my guild died, some people, as a 2-day guild, they went out to those people. So there's they're a lot better than we are right now, but those are old foes of mine, rivals in competition, I'll say. So I know what we're up against when it comes to that. So
yeah. Well, I mean, also I think that when I was looking at your logs, and you guys explained all of this before I ever said what my guess was, is that tanks are the hardest position to fill in raid, in Mythic Raid. if I had a dime for every terrible Blood Death Knight I've seen, like, I would be wealthy enough to quit my day job, right? And I don't know why it is. It's truly hard to find a good tank and then actually keep them. And you'd think that, it's hard to break into the scene as a tank because you only need 2 tanks compared to, 14 DPS. So I actually thought, when I was looking at your logs first, that you had picked up 2 mercs in the form of Dudclick and Frosty. Because I've definitely sold runs with Frosty before. I recognize him. But yeah, no, it's really cool that you know those guys. And I also think that speaks to one of the reasons why you're able to pick up such an incredible roster for your second tier. So, I think that you've also had some core members sort of step out and come back that play casually. Is that Zin's situation? Yeah. Okay. And then, did Judge quit? Because he's not...
No. It was for the gender reveal thing at the end. So he came in he had to leave on Thursday when we were on Galley. We got the boss to 10%. We're like, listen, man.
Right.
We're just going to finish out the tier. We're going to, you're just as important. You've been here. You deserve it just as much as anyone else. But, like, it doesn't make sense to regress at all.
Right.
Just finish out the tier, right? So.
Yeah.
Zin's story was he played Boomkin for us in Mage last year. And in the middle of this tier was like... I think we needed a monk buff, and he went to go Windwalker. So if he's in on our one-arm kill. He's our monk buff there. And then he, as we were progressing it, he was like, man, this fucking sucks. I hate this. And just was like, and then we were just like, all right, you'll be out for the last 2. We'll bring our Mistweaver in, and we'll call it a day. So yeah, so Zin has kind of always been around. It was just kind of figuring out how to get all the buffs in the most efficient manner. Yeah, that's what we decided to do.
Zin caught my eye when I was originally looking at Nurbar Palace because he had the most alts in all of your logs that were easily identifiable, right? Like Zin Shield, et cetera, et cetera. And so as somebody that used to play every class, I get it. So I was interested to see how he would do, and I was sad to see that he wasn't in for your final kill. But them's the breaks. All right, well, that's mostly everything that I have, and I want to thank you guys for take the time to meet with me, because I think that you guys are the most incredible and compelling guild from this tier.
Thank you. It means a lot.
But do you want to hear one other fun tidbit of information that you might find relevant? So if you look at our one-arm kill,
okay,
you'll notice that Judge is not in there either. And so what happened was he, for whatever reason, decided to race change in the middle of our raid week. And he fucked his lockout in. We needed our savior, Big Daddy Pump, to come in. And I think it was him and Badge, right? Tank, if I remember correctly. And so we basically, the tank situation is just a disaster. But we basically had to, just have another person come in because he fucked his lockout for the week. Or Badge went tank and we brought somebody else. It was something like that.
Yeah.
But Badge is a Havoc player, so we had to figure it out and bring in somebody extra. And I'm misremembering the details, but that's the gist of it.
Yeah, I can tell that looking through your logs that Badge is one of those players that will do whatever the raid needs, and it's always nice to have a couple of those on staff. Yeah. So yeah.
But another, I think, really interesting decision that we had to make that I think played out in our benefit was on Muggsy specifically.
True.
There was every guild, not every, 95% of the guilds that killed it before us had 5 yield, and they did it the Race to World first progression way. Cole was our flex player, as you mentioned before, right? He played Resto Druid and he played fucking Rogue, 2 very different things. And he was like, yo, I fucking hate playing Resto Druid. I just want to play my Rogue. And so we were looking at it, and then right as we were getting into P2 prog, the 5 heal way, when my friend Abrasive, the dud clicker guy who raided in Twitch Prime at the time, they had just lost their Disc Priest, and so they same thing that happened with our tank. A Disc Priest just got up and left mid progression, and so they had to 4 heal the boss, and so they killed it a week before we did, and so we basically were like, hey. We could do this. Cole could just play his Rogue. We'll phase the boss faster, right? We lose the 3% damage just from doing an extra phase. We'll get a Trophic Poison DR. We should try this and look into it. And then, if you look at, there was one night in particular, we tried it for an hour and a half during our progression, and we never met the DPS check for it, for better or for worse. and we were like, all right, fuck, this kind of sucks. And then we went back to the 5 heal, and then we looked at like an actual. It was the week before we got the 9% buff too, so we were like, oh, this is kind of a wasted night, whatever. And then so we had between Thursday and Monday to kind of think about it, and what we ultimately decided on is we're like, all right, we're gonna raid Monday. Come Tuesday, we're gonna get 3% more damage, so the DPS check should be met, just on its own. And so we continued to 4 heal it that Monday. We would like do weird lusts and stuff like that just to see P2. And then come Tuesday, we got the buff. We ultimately ended up killing the boss. But I think making the decision to go for that 4 heal thing as opposed to like the 5 heal thing and having Cole heal and all that kind of stuff was a super good decision in hindsight, and I think it was probably one of the biggest reasons we killed the boss when we did.
True.
I don't know if you find that stuff interesting, but
no,
that
I do.
Cool.
I think also like one of the things that I'm particularly interested in right now is I think that for many people this game is learning a piece of piano. Right? You sit down and you look at the fight, you go through the script that somebody else has already done, you go to lorgs, you copy their cooldowns, right? And then you just press your buttons and you blast. But the really fun part is solving it yourself. One of my favorite examples of this is, do you guys know who Squish Vegan is, or Ortimist?
Yeah,
I know. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so they have a Mythic Plus team that is like one of the best teams in the world right now. They play a completely off meta comp. It's because they have solved the equation differently. And people think that, you need a Unholy DK or a Vengeance Demon Hunter because, like, it's the meta, it's the best thing. But the real answer is that it's the best thing we've found so far. And I think that nothing exemplified that more in Classic, when people were like, actually, you want to wear your gear this way and you want to use your consumes this way, and these classes are actually going to do a lot more damage than these other classes, like Warriors wearing leather, for example, right? But if you played Classic, then you were a Warrior wearing plate, right? Like, the acceleration of the game in pursuit of the meta is fascinating to me. It's infinitely expanding. You can always try to solve things a different way, and that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I agree.
Do you guys have any questions for me?
So yeah,
No,
I mean, I do actually. So do you like publish something, or is it like written, or like what is it that like your objective is? Actually, I'm curious.
Oh yeah, okay. So I'm a big data nerd, obviously. I spend my time playing World of Warcraft competitively, and I fucking, and around this time last year, I was doing a deep dive into guilds, so that way our officers, like my officers in my current guild, could make better decisions. Like, we could compare when people started extending and, which of our contemporaries are, fielding bigger rosters, for example. So that way we could look at the comps that they're able to bring to particular fights and whether or not that's allowing them to actually prog faster, if that's meaningful, and, compared to the upset of having to bench people more often and then, hopefully just re-clear earlier. Anyway, all complicated stuff. But while I was doing that, I was like, I have done things like this my entire life, and I know that other people would also like to have these questions answered, and I may as well just record myself doing it and then post it online. I think this is my first YouTube video. Max streamed it briefly at the beginning of Liberation of Undermine.
Dude, I know it. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And so
That's funny.
I flashbanged him like 9 times. I started using Premiere Pro like literally 3 days before I posted this video. I had no idea what I'm doing. I still don't know what I'm doing.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I've seen this. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. What else have I done recently?
Go to your YouTube.
I recently, like, one of the things that drives me nuts is that people that suck at this game think that damage is the only thing that matters.
So untrue.
It's not. Like, if you want to look at really good players, they do mechanics and they press their defensives, right? Like, damage is a distant third. People were upset that I said in my key forming group that damage doesn't time keys, because it doesn't. I've never achieved title, but I've been title adjacent many times. And I know that it isn't the thing that bricks keys. Dying is what bricks keys. So I leveled an AUG, and I pushed its key as high as I could with only pugs and no gear to see how high I could take a group.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, the point where you need damage to time a key is like you are at a very high key level.
Oh, yeah.
As long as you're like doing things correctly, not dying and doing the right pulls, like you should, like good damage is fine. Exactly. The same goes in raid too. Like you just need blue parsers that don't die. That's really it.
Yeah. And that's exactly why I think it's important that you have people like, Bug on your staff that are able to say, okay, you know what, I'm going to take the fat zero here, and I am simply going to do the mechanic. Because you guys saved so much time on your one-arm prog, because your melee are not animals, and your hunter was willing to swallow his pride.
Yeah, thank God.
Yeah.
He's awesome for that.
Anyway, that's sort of everything that I have. I appreciate you guys taking the time. It's been nice to...
For sure.
Chat, especially, I've spent the last, 6 hours. Looking at your logs, being like, okay, all right, who are these people? What do they do? And I feel like I know them like a stalker.
Yeah.
You know, like.
It's a good skill to have, though.
Yeah.
You're probably good at looking at logs, that's for sure.
Listen, I had messaged Cole in the middle of this, like, I DM'd him. I was like, this guy knows our guild better than we do. He knows our fucking kick assignments on one arm. I was like, I don't even know if I know that shit offhand. So, no, I was genuinely, as someone that's played WoW for a while, I was very impressed in your preparation.
Yeah.
This was, I think, like a super, super fun interview just to like talk about from like, a WoW nerd to, like another one. So this was awesome. If you end up using this footage or anything like that, please like send it to me. I'd be super interested.
Oh yeah, I definitely will. I will also do this when I'm finished. I have a few other guilds that I want to mention. You're the only guild that I plan to interview.
No, that was awesome. I really had a good time doing this. So best of luck with everything, and I hope you guys kill Galaric sometime soon, along with Mugsy. So
all right, take care. See you. Bye.
Adios. Nice to meet you.